We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders.
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
One conversation at a time.
4,
3,
2,
1. Ignition.
Welcome to the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Key, president of PioneerRx, and today I'm here with my co-host, Marsha.
Hi, I'm Marsha Bivins, the Director of Marketing for PioneerRx. Today our guest is Bruce Kneeland, well-traveled, well-seasoned, in-community pharmacy advocate, podcaster, author, and speaker.
Wow, that's a lot.
That was a mouthful.
Hello, Bruce.
It's good to see you both, and
Yeah.
thanks for inviting me to do this. This is an honor beyond belief, so thanks.
We were on your podcast. I thought we could kind of...
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of an honor for us that Bruce is on here today because, I mean, you're kind of the globetrotter that goes around and interviews pharmacies and does it all in your RV.
Well, it's not an RV. My wife and I stay in hotel rooms every night, so it's we're not that adventuresome.
Oh,
Okay.
it was never an RV? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Why did I think? Because you had reached out to me about a road trip that you were doing, and
We just assumed
I
RV. Yeah.
I think you told. I thought the email said it was you had like an RV camper that.
So why not? Why not an RV?
Expense, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I just never been an RV. It's not something that we've ever even contemplated doing. So it's not our lifestyle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I
y'all
imagine
just-
that's your only vehicle.
But the road trips have all been phenomenal, and we get to meet a lot of remarkable pharmacy owners.
What would you say would be one of your favorite road trips that you've done?
Without a doubt, the favorite one that I have done was Route 66. I think we did that in like 2012. It was one of the first ones that we did. And it was just fun. I mean, part of the personal part of that is I was actually born in Needles, California, which is right on Route 66 as it comes into California from Arizona, as my family was moving from Arkansas to California. So my mom had me in a little railroad hospital in Needles in 1947 with my dad and 4 brothers in the car, frantically hoping that they would get to Needles before I was born. So that's my birth story.
Okay, nice little road trip there.
Yeah. But no, on the trip, I think we met with 13 different pharmacies.
Okay.
And the nature of these things is they're all prearranged. People recommend. We space them out, obviously, so that we can cover the distance. But they're all superstars, and we try very hard to find people who are doing stuff a little bit different. We're not going to visit 13 compounders, so we get people who are doing different things. And part of my wife's favorite thing is we still find some wonderful soda fountains. So Fair Oaks Pharmacy right on Route 66 in Pasadena, California has one of the great pharmacy soda fountains.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've been into some pharmacies that do the soda fountain.
Or ice cream.
I didn't even realize this until we went to Atlanta, but I was like, okay, now that makes sense. And that's a really fun fact that Coca-Cola was created, original formula or whatever was created by a pharmacist. So it makes sense that some pharmacies kind of, I guess, is that like their way to pay homage, or is that just like, hey, it's a crime of opportunity and it's convenient and I make money on the fountain drink?
Who created Dr. Pepper?
I don't know, but it was here in Texas.
That's a Texas story you guys need to know about.
Wasn't that
Dr.
a pharmacist
Pepper.
too?
I think so.
I think it was.
Okay.
In Waco.
Yeah, I know it was in Waco, and then you've got the Dublin sugar, the Dublin factory that does the sugar cane.
Yep.
Was Waco on one of your journeys?
Waco was not.
No.
We've not been there on one of these journeys yet. Happy to do it if I could find a sponsor. So
yeah. So is that you're don't have a trip planned?
We don't. At this point, COVID certainly put a squash on that idea 2 years ago. And I've done a dozen of them now, probably have worn the idea out from a publicity standpoint. And the good news is just as COVID was starting, I got involved in the podcasting thing with Todd Urey and the Pharmacy Podcast Network. And so podcasting has become my way to meet new people. And, thanks to you guys, I'm going to do a program with Kyle McCormick of Blueberry Pharmacy here pretty soon. And I wouldn't have known much about him if I hadn't heard you guys talking to him. So he's a go-getter. So
how often do you do podcasts?
I shoot for once a month. I just recorded my 27th one. And Kyle's scheduled to do later this month. So it's a little bit more than once a month, but that's what I shoot for.
Because that's kind of a semi-retired pace?
Yeah.
So when are we going to see you on TikTok?
That TikTok escapes me. So, I'm the elderly and aging and out of it generation. So I don't know that TikTok's going to happen.
Up.
Oh, that's unfortunate because
just pull back into the freeway, Bruce. You can do it.
I found a pharmacist.
YouTube is
a couple actually
is at least on the radar screen, but TikTok, I see those. You can't avoid seeing them, but that requires editing and cutting and slicing and creativity, which escapes me.
So what's your daughter doing these days?
So Robin is with Prescribed Wellness and on pins and needles, wondering what's going to happen with that company. We just spent a week with her and her family down in Natchitoches, Louisiana, 2 weeks ago. And I had a wonderful time, but I think she's off right now to the Arkansas Pharmacist Association meeting. And she stays quite busy and has done a remarkable job for that company.
Oh yeah, that kicks off today. We've got a couple people at the Arkansas Pharmacy Association. So.
Yep, we got a couple of our people, lots of customers.
Yes, lots of customers.
Probably there,
but we will have a booth there.
We have our show next week. Going to have over 900 attendees.
Largest connect yet ever.
I know this is your show, and I know you're not paying me anything. So for anybody who watches this, they have to know that what PioneerRx has done in this industry is without peer. Jeff, I remember meeting you in Nashville, I think 12 years ago when you were just getting started under the Pioneer name. And, you sold pharmacy at that show in Montana, as I recall. I did have a chance to see him on one of my road trips, as a matter of fact. And, to grow from nothing to 5,000 in 10 or 12 years and have 900 people at your Connect show, that's impossible. Nobody can do that.
Yeah, well, so
thank you.
And the next step of that is the kind of customers, right? And probably the reason of our success was the early on, we got such really good, smart people. Hit it off in North Carolina, hit it off in Montana. But imagine 900 of those in a single place together.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I can't. I may blast off. I may actually physically not be touching the ground.
Like a quote that Troy Trickstad said years ago, like probably 4 years ago about Connect. And it became One of my favorite, and I'm like, can I use that like over and over and over? He said,
And she does.
Connect is the greatest collection of entrepreneurial-minded pharmacists in the industry. And I love that because it, like Jeff said, we get like 900 of these entrepreneurial pharmacists who want to do more than just put pills in a bottle and give it to the patient and say, great, on your merry way. And it's just so awesome. We're going to have 900 of them there.
You've just put that on my wish list. So before I formally retire, I want to make it to a Connect meeting. So
You should. It's just crazy because you go in, oh my goodness, there's a superhero. And then, oh my goodness, there's a superhero. Oh wow, there's a superhero. You know, it's just crazy. And what's been a challenge to me historically is it's a training show. You know, one of the goals is, you know, we do training there. It's
Right.
It's not like a wholesaler show where you're kind of there to visit the city. Although we did leave a little bit of an afternoon to try to do that this year. But you look, we probably have, I don't know, 80,000 people who use our software on a daily basis, and we're training 900 of those. And I get, oh, this is so much work. And right now, Marsha's saying, yeah, this is so much work. And is it really worth it? But you go, and the charge up that you get,
The energy.
and the relationships that get established there, and the connect, the side effects of everything like that. Every time we do it and we're done on the other side, we go, we could never not do this.
Like the 2 month or two leading up to it, he's like, we're not doing this anymore. It's too much work. I don't like it. It's too much work. And then we'll go to Connect, and we come home, and he's like, we got to start the next one. This is amazing. This was so awesome.
And I mean, you take a snapshot of that, and I hate to say this, but half the pharmacies are below average. And as I wander
By design,
around,
right?
just
That's what
on
average
personal things, I'll stop in and see a pharmacy and just chat and say hello. Had an interesting visit with a person just a couple weeks ago. They're just so depressed, and they don't see that there's a way. They don't see that there's a way forward, and they won't join the State Pharmacy Association because the State Pharmacy Association's never done anything for them. And you just want to scream at them and say, "What have you done for the State
Absolutely.
Pharmacy Association?"
Mm-hmm.
And there are literally a dozen avenues forward that gets talked about in the magazines and at the trade shows, but they're not reading the magazines or going to the trade shows.
Right.
And
Yeah.
What
have you
that's
done
the
to help
challenge.
yourself?
We have to figure out a way to get these people to see that there is a future, there is a way forward, and it's there because you have 900 of them at your show.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's been even more stressed with the pandemic.
Well, you see these, one of the things, there's a big group, a consulting group that has these member deals. And for a time, we kind of snuck in there to see what was going on. But finally I said, I'm not putting this crap in my brain anymore. Right? These some of these pharmacists, they get together with these fest of the glass is half empty and kind of stuff. And you just walk away and they're sad. There's people today who run Facebook groups and different type of groups, and you want to take those guys and you want to say, hey, your goal should be when somebody sits down with this for a little while and gets up and goes, they're walking a little lighter. They're excited. They're thinking about something they're going to do, not thinking about, the doom and gloom and just go away and going, I really need to sell this thing. This industry is really crap. Because, if the glass is 100% full, capitalism is going to fix that, right? Somebody's going to come out there. I saw an interesting TikTok. The last of my stuff comes from TikTok today. But talking about how if you're making too much money, capitalism is going to fix that. Somebody's going to come in and they're going to do it at a better price and they're going to do it better. If your glass is 100% full, somebody else is going to come in there and do it, and capitalism is going to fix it. If you're in a good market, your glass is never going to be 100% full. It's going to be half full. And so you've got to go, oh, wow, I got a glass half full industry. What opportunity there is, because I can kill it if I just try. If I listen and I study from other people and I do it, and there are pharmacies out there that are killing it, but they're not doing it with just dispensing.
Well, and then always looking at what somebody else is doing and going, I have an idea how I can do that better. I can do this my way, and to me, it's better. But I mean, I look at everything that way. Yeah, I had Craig, our new CEO, hit me a couple weeks ago. Is he still considered new if it's been 2 years?
I don't know. It's all new. It's new every day. Craig was asking, what's Pioneer's culture? Not one of those things I think about. These are more kind of, bigger companies think about culture. We haven't really had a culture. We're going to do culture. But as you get bigger, these are the things you have to be challenged with, do. And really, I thought about it for a while, and our culture is innovation. How do we be better tomorrow? Just a really aggressive, I can remember earlier on our warehouse, we stock about 6 months of things we'd used for. We're not just in time on ordering stuff to do installs because we can't afford to not be to do an install because we don't have product. Matter of fact, right now with all the disruptions, we have a year's worth.
With the pandemic, we got up to a year's
I bet you we've remodeled the way the warehouse works 20 times. Just continuously thinking, how do I make it better? How do I make it better? How do I make it better? And wanting people around us that it's not okay to be how we were yesterday. We got to be better tomorrow. We got to not think of ourselves as the wolf on the top of the hill.
Well, having a clear dream, and, you say it all the time.
Save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
That's something these guys your employees can lock onto. And, the couple times I've been in your offices there in Shreveport, there's just a collegiality. There's no hierarchy. There's, people talk to people, and it's just a pleasant working environment. And, and you've got a mission that everybody can hold on to. And I got 2 or 3 things I had hoped to be able to say, and that is one of them for pharmacies is, you've as a pharmacy owner, your biggest job is to persuade your employees that you're doing something that matters to the employee and something that matters to the people that they serve. And, in pharmacy, that's an easy thing to come up with is, we help people live happier, healthier lives. And, we bend over backwards to make sure they get the medications and the information and the services. And, Marsha, you talked earlier about putting pills in bottles. And, I'm one of those who admonishes 2 things. Keep filling as many prescriptions as you can profitably fill, because that brings people to your pharmacy. Then you can build other services onto that. It's easier to sell somebody who's a prescription customer on a drug nutrient depletion program than it is to sell somebody to buy a vitamin who's filling their prescription someplace else. So you got to get the people in your store. And when they come in, they have to recognize that this place is alive and vibrant, and there's an atmosphere there of collegiality and concern. And when I walk into a pharmacy and the lights are low and the people are hiding behind piles of stuff on the prescription counter and focusing on a computer screen, I know immediately that that's not a pharmacy that's thriving.
Right. No, it's absolutely, it's absolutely more than just putting pills in a bottle. It's
got to be more.
It's making a relationship with that patient so they feel safe with anything and everything that you recommend their way. I actually found a pharmacist on TikTok, and he's one of our pharmacies. He's one of our customers, and we got to interview him on the podcast, and I fangirled. It was so exciting to me because his content that he's putting out there, his content is really driven towards patient information. So, we all go, oh, hey, we've got a sinus infection. We go to the doctor, we get our antibiotic or whatever. But what about the add-on stuff that we need? And if the patient doesn't have that relationship with the pharmacist to go, oh yeah, I just need my prescription, and then walk out the door, and if they have the relationship with the pharmacist, then it's easy for that pharmacist to go, here's some other things that are going to help that sinus infection.
Yeah.
And that's what his content is purely driven around. And he gets like 3 to 5 new patients a week from his TikTok channel.
So
Wow.
Bruce, what year did you go into the first pharmacy?
I
Ooh.
called on my first pharmacy in Fargo, North Dakota in
Wow.
August 1973.
1973. So we're looking at somebody do the
49
math.
years.
49 years. So in 49 years of pharmacy, give me 3 characteristics of pharmacies you've gone into and you said, hey, if I see these 3 things, one of these 3 things, then I know this is probably going to be a successful pharmacy.
I'm going to add on to that. So what are the top 3 things that you look for when you walk into a pharmacy to go, they're doing it right?
First of all, I'm gonna back up because I'm gonna tell you when I called on my first pharmacy, what I heard is, "Oh crud, the industry's going to hell. We can't succeed anymore." And the incident was Robitussin, which was a huge independent only recommended cough and cold product, had decided to sell to the chains. And so that was the death toll for
Going to be the
pharmacy.
end of it. Yep.
That was the end of it. So for 49 years, I've been hearing that it's over. It's going to end next week.
That's definitely
to your question. It's some simple stuff. Frankly, the curb appeal of the pharmacy.
Okay.
Does it look nice? When you walk in, is it clean, well lit? Are the shelves full? Are the shelves organized? Mm-hmm. And are the people moving and active? Did they notice me when I walk into the pharmacy? They don't need to talk to me, but you can tell whether they notice you. And it's that stuff that's that simple. And I would argue that in 30 seconds, you can tell whether 80% accuracy, you can tell whether the guy's going to make it or not.
So of the ones you've gone to in the last, well, let's skip the pandemic, but the last piece, what percentage of them would you say the owner could get from behind the counter on a regular basis?
That's remarkable, and that's that catch-22. But 100% of the ones that I visit on my organized road trips.
Yeah, I could see that.
On those,
he's getting referrals.
I'm pre-selected to go to people who have been recommended by, the sponsor, you or Good Neighbor Pharmacy or whatever. And they always have an office, and I can sit down and talk to them.
So I'm going to go back further. So before the 70s, when you stepped into your first pharmacy, how did you get into it? What got you into pharmacy industry?
It's the story of my life by accident. I never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I still can't answer that question. But I graduated from Brigham Young University in August of 1973 with a degree in public relations.
Okay.
And I had a baby and a wife and no job offer. And I'm walking through the student center, and there's a little sign up says JB Rohrig, which is a division of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, interviewing for salespeople. And I went in and talked to the guy. He asked to see my wife, and he took us out to get a Coke at Denny's restaurant, as I recall, and offered me a job right then. And we took it and moved to Fargo, North Dakota, both of us having been born and raised in Los Angeles, sight unseen. And
wow.
It was the best job offer. It was the only job offer I had.
It was the best, yep.
And, 2 weeks later, with a degree in public relations from Brigham Young University, I was selling the world's most expensive injectable antibiotic to surgeons and surgical centers. Did that for 3 years, hated it. Got a promotion, moved to St. Louis, and met a friend at church who was with Medicine Shop. And they hired me on as a guy, and I immediately fell in love with what they were doing and how they were making pharmacies accessible and available. So that's how I got into the business. And from there, it's a series of job losses and mergers and all those kinds of things. I've got working on my memoirs now. I've got a book with 37 business cards. So you name it.
Book, what does that mean? So. 30. Oh, you're 37 business cards. So you've done 37 different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a guy who's fallen from place to place and landed on his feet. And every time something bad has happened, something better has opened up going forward. It's been a remarkable career.
So what was the pinnacle? You say, the sun shines down from heaven and says, "Hey, I'm well pleased," right? What has been the pinnacle of your career?
The road trip gig.
That was fun.
Pinnacle of my career is getting the American Pharmacist Association Honorary Member of the Year award this year.
Huh.
Congratulations!
Kind of like it's the Career Achievement Award. If there were a couple highlights, a couple things that happened early in my career, I had a chance to work after Medicine Shop. I went to Health Mart, and at Health Mart, I put together this Health Mart caravan, and we did the first cholesterol finger stick test in the world in 1985 in this little, it was a big horse trailer that we painted up, and we took it around from pharmacy to pharmacy and parked it in a parking lot and put a big balloon on top, and and it just would bring hundreds of people to the pharmacy, and we'd run them through free health screening tests, and that just worked superbly and got me an awful lot of recognition. The road trips, though, are really the capstone, the pinnacle of what I've done. And the genesis of that was an article I read in Time magazine in like 2002 about putting a couple guys on the road and having them travel across the country and just go to middle America, small towns, and see what made them tick. And that's when I got the idea for my first. When I did it, I thought it was the only road trip, but I tipped my toe in the Atlantic Ocean in April of 2008. And 2.5 weeks later, I was standing on the Golden Gate Bridge, and my wife and I had visited 30 pharmacies.
Wow.
On a coast-to-coast trip in 2.5 weeks. You talk about flying low and late nights and early mornings, about 4,700 miles as you zigzag across the country. But that's the most amazing thing that I've done. And then the spill off from that has been what's fueled my career for the last 10, 15 years.
How long would you stay in a pharmacy in that kind of model? A couple hours?
Yeah. Get in. I mean, it's all prearranged by appointment. You've talked with the guy a couple times. You know what you're going to focus on. Take some pictures, meet the people, and then focus on one or two things that they're doing that's different and unique. And then get in the car, typically 2 a day.
That road trip would be a fun podcast episode to follow.
I'm always willing to talk about my road trips.
Yeah, I mentioned we got to help Bruce. How can he so now he's thinking, hey, this has all been here, done this. How can we re-innovate the road trip?
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to do with the podcasts, and the beauty of it is you get a lot more detailed information into the hands of the listeners. The piece that's missing for me on my podcast, and Todd and I keep talking about that, is a tangible deliverable. I'd really love to be able to, and we're working on that, and we've done that in a couple of cases recently, where after you listen to the podcast, here's a summary of the podcast, and here's a checklist of things that you can do to emulate what Jeff Gross has done in Mickey Fine Pharmacy. So, and I think Jeff is a customer of yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And what he's done outside of the pharmacy, with doing COVID shots is, beyond remarkable.
Yes, we have our latest in here. I'm going to introduce it here. It's going to stick. So where it's not independent pharmacy, it's not community pharmacy, it's in community pharmacy.
In community pharmacy, that's good.
So they're out working in the community.
Yeah. I've got the saying that at any one time, there's more people outside your pharmacy than there are in your pharmacy. If you want to get more people in your pharmacy, get out of your pharmacy.
Oh, I love it. That'll be our Bruce quote. You put it on the wall. Yeah, that's time and time again, from us doing these podcasts, the really successful people are the ones who are spending time outside the pharmacy. If you're a pharmacy today and you're not spending time outside the pharmacy, you're not going to be successful long term.
And that's the catch-22. And I'll go back to this pharmacist that I visited a couple of weeks ago. After the first 3 or 4 awkward minutes, it was really quite a pleasant visit. But she's there all by herself with 2 technicians and a cash register person, and trying to squeeze somebody into the delivery car and run out and do a delivery. She never gets out. She never meets anybody, and she can't afford to. So I wish I knew a way to get past that. Other than, I asked her, did she try MedSync? And she says, yeah, but that didn't work. And do you do any drug nutrient depletion counseling? Well, no, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you break through that.
Well, the first thing, if you're going to open a pharmacy, you've got to plan that in with your financials.
Yeah, I was about to bring up Eric Larson.
You've got to have the dollars, knowing that not that I'm going to work it 100 hours a week myself during the first 6 months till I make it enough to get out, but I'm going to have saved up enough money that during the first year, I'm going to spend X day out of the pharmacy or 2 days out of the pharmacy, and I'm going to be able to pay a relief pharmacist. Went into
Eric Larson, he decided he was going to open a pharmacy, and he budgeted for him not to be the pharmacist behind the counter. And he's knocking on doors and making conversations. And it's just an overall really good success story, because while we were visiting his pharmacy, we were there in the pharmacy when he got the phone call from the state that, can you do if we give you 50 vaccines, can you get them taken care of?
But he got that call because he knew him, and they knew what he was doing. He had sat down and talked to them and knew what he was doing. We talked to a different pharmacy there in nearby him, totally different story. Are you going to do COVID vaccines? No, I'm afraid if I was doing those and I had a customer come in, I couldn't solve them quick enough. Okay, innovate, right? Schedule your COVID vaccines for 2 hours a day and hire a nurse part-time to come in and do the COVID vaccines. It'll pay for itself. They gotta be thinking out of the box of how I can do this. I would say, if you put a sign on your pharmacy, if you closed your pharmacy from 11 to 1 on, let's say, Fridays, and the sign on the door said, hey, you let all your customers know, hey, on Fridays 11 to 1 we're closed because I'm out in the community, they would understand. They'd work around it. You wouldn't lose any customers. And just know, hey, once a week, if you could just once a week from 11 to 1, I'm going to go visit my nearby doctors. I'm going to go visit my public health. I'm going to do something.
Or putting a sign on your door and also posting it on your social media that, hey, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or pick 2 or 3 days a week and pick the hours and say COVID vaccines, this time block.
Do you ask, so when you're doing your road trips, is one of the questions you ask them, what are they working on? What's their next thing they're trying to do?
Yeah. I mean, what are you doing that's working? How did you happen to come across that? What obstacles did you encounter that I can share with other people so that they can overcome? Haven't done a whole lot of what's next. And I wish I would have talked to you 10 years ago, because that's the great question.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my challenge in my little intro at Connect, and trying to motivate people is, hey, everybody think right now, what's that thing you're working on? And it can't just be being more profitable. What's the thing you're working on right now? If you don't have a thing,
Yeah,
then you're in
everybody.
trouble.
That's a problem.
Everybody wants to be more profitable.
Yeah, every time you should have a thing. I'm working on nutrient depletion. I'm working. What is that thing you're working on? And it doesn't need to be 50 things. There may be 10 things I want to work on, but what's the thing you're working on tomorrow? Not in the tomorrow we use badly. Or let's say today. What am I working on today? Because the tomorrow never happens.
If you got it in your calendar, which is a perfect segue, because I did want to try to at least drop a trial balloon on what I think is next for me.
Okay, do it.
So, I mean, to the topic of this conversation, I am an advocate for pharmacies marketing.
Okay.
And I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not a MBA, but I understand a little bit about the importance of marketing. And first thing is marketing and advertising are too confused, and marketing is bigger than that. But the one thing I heard, and I think it's more true than not, is trying to teach a pharmacist to be a marketer is like putting a round peg in a square hole. And it's just not in the nature of most of these people. They're selected to go to pharmacy school because they're very, very detail-oriented, task-oriented, and God bless America, because that's what I want, putting my pills in my bottles. But the point that I would make is you may not be the marketer, but you can hire one. And chances are that person is already working for you in your pharmacy. So the ability to get a technician or a clerk to get out of the store and go do these things.
Good. Yeah.
Many times is more practical than getting the pharmacist out. So just for example, what we've talked about is I can send my technician out to do stuff on Thursday afternoon between 2 and 4 when it's the slow time. The real problem arises is, I talk to pharmacists all the time who've tried to do doctor detailing and they never got a referral. Well, the problem is, what are you saying and doing when you go call on the doctor?
Yeah, they're having good coaching.
If you're going to the doctor's office and saying, hey, send me prescriptions, that's not effective. So you have to go in and talk about a patient, about a program, about a process, about something that you do that will help the doctor and the doctor's offices, and doing pre-approvals for drugs that have been rejected, or some of those things that I know people get talked about. So my dream, and it is a dream, not a plan, is to create something called the Independent Pharmacy Marketing Institute.
Okay.
And it would be an organization that would be developed to help the person in the pharmacy who is the part-time marketer interact with other people who are doing those same kinds of things and share ideas and get experience and get uplifted.
Just
so
coaching.
You talk about connect. I'd like to build a meeting with 900 pharmacy technicians who also have marketing as part of their job description.
Interesting. Yeah, and so what's cool about what you said is and Mark Bivins and I, our VPSL, were talking this morning, and he says, oh yeah, but this thing I'm about to say is sales 101. Everybody knows that. And I was like, yeah, it's like common sense. Common sense isn't common. And
that's right.
And where we feel, so you went in 3 directions. You went, hey, they shouldn't go in and just say, hey, we're the pharmacy down the street. Could you send us your business? Then the next step toward what they should be doing is you might say, hey, I'm here. I want to talk about patient X. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
But the pinnacle is to walk in and say, hey, we're the pharmacy down the street. What problems do you have that we can help with? What are you struggling with? Right?
I'm going to steal that, Jeff, because that's right.
Because that's exactly. Hey, we're here. We're trying to do more in our community. What problems do you have that we can help with? And that's it. And that's what Eric Larson, and you remember him because we physically visited him. But there's lots of our pharmacies are like that. That's their MO. They're just running it around town.
Yep, Amina does it.
Amina's built tons of businesses pieces just by going around and saying, "What are you struggling with? What can we help you with?"
Well,
Yeah.
I think Amina walked in with more of like a force of, hey, so you realize you're supposed to be doing these things and you get paid for it, but I can put a pharmacist here and we'll do these clinicals for you and we'll take 20%.
Yeah, once they say what their problem is, but let you solve their problem. Too often, as Marsha and I used to hit every trade show, right? And so you have a very structured, and now we send other people to trade shows, and you have to train them because also often somebody walks up, oh, pharmacy software, tell us about it. Well, we and
It's the classic.
and it shouldn't be just like whoa.
Yeah.
Tell me about your pharmacy.
Tell me about your pharmacy.
Well, like,
where are you? How many
what's-
scripts do you
I
fill a
refer
day?
to it as the
Yeah, but-
classic first date mistake. Never talk about yourself. Talk about them.
Yeah, what's unique about your pharmacy? What is different? And then you can lead into what problems you're having. Sometimes if you start off with what problems you're having, it's kind of, I don't have any problems.
Right.
I'm not a problem. But what's unique about your pharmacy? You can say, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? What's next for you?
Well, I mean,
But
it's all about wording
But
there.
I
So,
love
like,
it. But
what are
that
your
is
current
about,
struggles?
well, it's not, there's a paradigm shift there, and not just about what you say, but how you think. In one modus, you're telling about something they may or may not need. I love early on there was one, and you go through little phases where you do, where people come up and say, why do I need PioneerRx? You might not.
Right.
Tell me about
You
what's
might
going
not.
on. You might not. What you're doing might be fine. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to be?
And I mean, how valuable would that 5-minute conversation be to the typical below average pharmacy owner who's struggling trying to figure out what to do?
Yeah. I love the tech marketer. All right, so when are you doing this institute? I like this, and that's what they need. They need to be trained. These aren't, even though somebody has been doing this and repping it, like Mark, oh yeah, that's just second nature. That's 101. No, it's not.
It's second nature to
It's
him.
like I grew up on Zig Ziglar, and a lot of the concepts about work and about, you need to give somebody everything they should expect from you and then some, and then some is the success piece. The other piece
Right.
is just, hey, I do the work and I get paid. I
Have
grow.
anything in the world you want as long as you help everybody
Somebody else get what they want. Yep.
Thank you.
There's Ziggy. So,
yes.
but to
Talk
me,
about the highlights of my career. I got a chance to golf with Zig Ziglar.
What?
In 1997, 1998.
wow.
I
Okay.
grew up on
I'm
Zig
jealous.
Ziglar as well. He's just a great speaker.
How was that? Anything interesting from that? Give us a tidbit from golfing with Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, it was a memorable thing. His son was there, who was actually taking over the Zig Ziglar Corporation. I was working for a trade organization, and we were doing a sales meeting in Dallas, and we ended up hiring Zig Ziglar's company to do the program.
And he
When
showed
you
up.
hire his company to get the program, you don't get Zig. But out on the golf course, we closed the deal. So it was fun.
So it must have been fun golf. You must have got lots of encouragement, right? You hit a bad ball, you're like, you can do it.
It's an inside joke, but I bought a set of pants. So
You bought some pants after the golf?
yeah, I mean, Zig started his career
Right,
as
yeah, on selling cookware. Yep.
a cookware salesman. So, so the Institute is a dream at this point. But I think there's a place for it.
I think it's a
and the
great idea.
idea would be is that most of these people, every pharmacy would do well to have somebody like that. Most of the people will not have an owner who can teach them. So, for some modest monthly fee, can your clerk belong to this organization, do monthly phone calls and share ideas and, have a newsletter. I mean, all the classic stuff for a trade organization. So if my podcast thing kind of simmers down because I don't learn to do TikTok, then I
don't
might
think
come
TikTok
back.
is.
I'll teach you.
Yeah, well, TikTok is consumer, and he's not doing consumer, so we'll just
I've got
tease
a
you
little
about
bit more
TikTok.
passion for the marketing idea.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. Surely we're doing a marketing class at Connect.
Phil's my pharmacist
Is doing
is
some
going
marketing. Oh, that's good.
is going to be teaching. on social media and growing your business with social media. I think the biggest struggle this year for pharmacies has been just the great layoff during the pandemic. And so Travis Wolf will be teaching a class on
The Great Resignation.
Yes, the Great Resignation. Thank you. Travis Wolf will be teaching a class about, getting great
employees.
people and keeping them and
certainly
creating
training
that
them.
culture. Yeah, training them and keeping them.
One of the things I would add on to your sales pitch for your marketing institute is I don't think you can be good at hiring a marketer unless you really understand marketing. Because so often some marketers can just waste your money.
That's the biggest problem. People try something that didn't work because they did a poor job of trying it. So you're right. You have to teach the person how to do
Right.
that.
Well, and good marketing is about measuring results and refining results. And so anything you do, you have to put in, how am I going to measure it? Right? If it doesn't work,
You can't measure it. You can't manage
how
it.
am I going to refine it? And so I think there's a role even for the techs and you almost see a class about how to hire a marketer. What do you look for in a marketer? What's your measures?
Let's do that at Connect next year.
I think that's a great plan.
Let me throw one other thing, because it's the most impassioned thing that I have, and I know we're getting close to time, but the issue is we keep talking pharmacy, and pharmacy implies pills and pharmaceuticals. I've been on a mission for years to try to help pharmacists understand they are healthcare professionals.
Yep.
Yes.
And they're in the healthcare business. And certainly they're experts in pharmaceuticals, and I think they want to jealously hold on to that. But as a healthcare professional, the world is their oyster. There's a million directions that they can go and still enwrap that into their pharmacy as a healthcare destination. I'm not talking about being a physician and diagnosing, that type of thing, all of the other things. So, we have a mall up in our town. I live in Prescott, Arizona, by the way, that's struggling. It's dying. But one of the thriving stores in there is a little store called the H2O store. And this clever lady has done nothing but figure out how to sell water. And if you start thinking about who cares more about water than a pharmacist, because everything they do, your people take with water. So she's got purifiers and, all kinds of gizmos. And the point is to put a section in your pharmacy where you would help people have cleaner, pure, better water. COVID has made air filtration, a common thing. Why aren't we selling high quality air filters and ultrasonic light kinds of things? I am a big believer in the growth of this whole industry around home instead and visiting angels. All these franchises are popping up where they send people into people's homes who can help with cleaning and bathing and cooking. And all they can do is look at the medicine, say, what do I do with the medicine? And they can't touch the medicine because that's not part of their job. Why couldn't a pharmacist create a home instead business and send people into people's homes and doing that?
That's a great idea.
And the one that, that we're just sitting here personally stewing over, hospital bills. I mean, why not some kind of a pay for service like H&R Block, where you sit down with a person who's just gone through a heart transplant or, a hip replacement, and help them understand all of their bills that they're getting for the insurance companies, contest the bills, and reduce the amount of the copay that the people have to pay for that. That's all health care.
I saw.
there was you just saw a thing. You told me about it yesterday at lunch, and it was a woman who went back to the billing, and she's like, well, what are these charges here?
She asked for the receipts.
Yeah, she asked for all
and
the
her bill
receipts.
dropped from $12,000 to $500.
Yeah.
Just from asking for receipts.
And that's the first time she did it. Just imagine how good you can get after you've got somebody on your staff who's done this 10 times.
That's an interesting idea.
And now knows the hospital and can open up the doors and get there without animosity and confusion. She can speak the language of the insurance people.
What's the pay model? So do you take a
H&R
percentage?
Block.
Do you take a
Yeah,
percentage of the
he-
savings?
he
Yeah, no,
said
but do you
like
take a
an
percentage of
H&R.
the savings? Do you just charge a fixed price? How do you get paid for it?
I suspect people would try it both ways. The going in proposition of, hey, I take a percentage of your savings is typically attractive in the beginning, but then when they see you got $5,000, because I saved you $12,000, that gets to be a rub. So, I mean, my point would be,
Yeah.
A per hour charge from the
Yeah,
forms
you'd
that I fill
have to
out,
do
just
an
like
hourly.
H&R Block. So that's my pitch to pharmacy is hold on to pharmacy as jealously as you can. That's your foundation, but think bigger than pharmacy. Think healthcare.
Yep.
And those are just some of the examples that I've mused over the last year or two.
Yeah, and I think my wife's dad's in the hospital right now, and they're moving his medications all around, trying to get things to work. And I think about the fact that who was it? Calvin was telling us, Dr. Cal, that doctors don't really get training on medication. Their knowledge of medication comes from the drug reps who come by. Pharmacists have a PhD today in how chemicals affect the body, right? So, I tell my wife she really needs now. Fortunately, we have a pharmacist, and she's just sending this stuff to our pharmacist. But she ought to be able to go to their local pharmacy and pay something and say, "Hey, I need you to evaluate these. What's going on here." And
people will pay for that. And
yep.
And most people won't, but many will. And the argument I use about pay for healthcare is, insurance companies aren't paying for massage treatments. Insurance companies aren't paying for yoga classes.
Yep.
And people pay for those things because they perceive a value. So it comes back to marketing. How are you going to position this? You've got to have a separate place in your pharmacy. You got to have the props. You got to have the forms. You got to have the marketing materials, and set it up as a separate entity that just happens to be done in the pharmacy.
Marsha and I ran into a guy in Florida Pharmacy Association who made all of his money on consulting with people on their drug regimes getting out of the hospital. Matter of fact, he was in hey, this is what I do. I'm thinking about getting into dispensing, which I thought was hilarious. It's like, it's kind of reverse. That's reverse there. A lot of people in dispensing think about getting into here, and he was fully successful in it. Marketing, it's just, you got to market it. So that's the piece, the people who are, well, I tried that. What does that mean? What did you try? How hard did you try? How long? What facts did you get together? Who did you learn from before you did it?
And that's where coming to meetings like Connect or the
Absolutely.
NCPA meeting are important. And, I've got a good friend in the industry called Chris Klein-Dahlman. She's worked for Jonathan Marquez for years doing her CE programs. And she and I've chatted a fair amount on how we think the idea of CE has become overrated and overused, because when you're doing CE, you need to be nebulous.
Right. Yep.
And and if you're going to teach people how to do MedSync on a pharmacy, on a PioneerRx system, they have to be talking about PioneerRx.
So we have been successful getting some
but-
waivers there.
Well, not just that, but they have to
Yep.
want to do it.
Well, what he's saying is a
And
CE
do
in
it
general
right.
has to be non-product specific. So
Yes,
if I'm
it
at
is.
I'm
I'm aware.
at Louisiana Pharmacy Association, I do a CE to the general public, I have to be generic.
Yeah, you can't mention Pioneer.
But we've gotten waivers where everybody in the audience all has the same product. Then you can talk about using that product toward a
And
CE.
you're not
Because there's
selling it
no
at
way
that
you're
point.
selling them anything. Yep.
Yeah, that's very creative. Well, so this episode will be released after you're done with Connect. So
Yes.
we're not going to get anybody to come to Connect this year because
It's sold
of this.
out.
But,
Yeah, it's sold out anyway. So
so
don't
we'll
have
start
room for
talking about
anymore.
next year,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll have something I can present to you we can do there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
cool.
And then we'll have to probably get you back on before the podcast, get you back on this podcast before the next Connect, so we can talk about that and even maybe have you have a class. Maybe I don't know. Have to look at the content and what we do with that, and then promote that.
Are you heading out to any of the shows this year?
You know, I've not had any commercial reason to be to any this year, unfortunately. So
Well, you could just go
I'm not
for
going to make
fun.
any of them.
You could be. I bet you.
I mean,
somebody,
you're there for relationship. Everybody knows Bruce Kneeland.
Yeah.
I think last time I
And-
saw you was at a show somewhere. I don't remember where.
Typically NCPA annual.
NCPA.
Yeah, I know we connected at NCPA for a little bit. And I made it to APHA, but that's the only two this year. So
So we'll see you this October then.
for sure in Kansas City, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have been to Kansas City. Kansas City's pretty nice.
Once.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And
But-
the area where the convention center is and all that's a very nice area. You've got your Hallmark Center in that general area as well, and it's a nice town.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing you this October. Wish we were seeing you next week in person.
Well, me too. And again, thanks so much. So I'm going to close with my other tagline thing is we always talk about pharmacies changing, and they need to change. But I like to say, don't just change, improve.
Yep.
Love it.
Change is inevitable. Improvement is optional, and has
love
to be
it.
done by design, by intention.
I like that.
And
Change is inevitable. Improvement is optional. That's good. That'll
Yeah.
be another Bruce quote. Well, give us a plug for the podcast.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, it's called Pharmacy Crossroads. I typically interview a pharmacy owner who is doing something remarkable and chat with him about that. It's on the Pharmacy Podcast Network, and you can find it at www.pharmacycrossroads.com. Will take you to the whole menu of shows that I've done.
Fantastic.
Well, Bruce, thank you for being remarkable.
Thank you so much for joining
and
us
for
today.
your remarkable career and being with us today and everything you do for pharmacy and have done and
being the biggest
and are
advocate for in-community pharmacy.
It's in-community pharmacies rule, right?
That's
Yes.
We're going to take that and make it national.
right. It was fun.
Thank you so
I
much.
do.
Look forward to our
Thanks,
next
guys.
time together.
Bye, Bruce. Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode,
Please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.